What's up, Sooner fans? Welcome back to the Sooner Surge. Before we get started, click the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, like and comment, give us a rating here. Would love to have some interaction, and we want to have you drop your comments in here after this video. Today, as we talk about a topic, an issue that has been really a common thread this early in the OU Texas week. It's not just a common thread this year. It's one that you're going to see after doing much research that Hunter has done. This is an issue that seems to be a very important topic as we head into this game on Saturday, and that's the running game and the running attack and what it means going into Saturday, Hunter.
Yeah, OU, the rushing game has not been where everyone expected it to be, which isn't necessarily the end of the world. Like, this isn't a complete doom type of episode. The sky's falling, none of that. But it should be better. A lot of it comes down to who is the RB1. We're 5 games in, and we still don't have a definitive answer on that. If I had to guess, I would say Marcus Major is the first back out there this week against Texas. He's been the first back the past few weeks. He's really started to separate himself. Kawhi Walker's played really well at times. It's just Javante Barnes, Gavin Sawchuk, getting them back into the flow of things. But the Sooners have 4 really good running backs this year. So it's just a matter of getting them comfortable, getting them rolling into a rhythm. That hasn't happened yet. The goal is always 5 yards per carry. That has not happened this year in a game. So OU Texas, it's been talked about it. I know we talked about it on the live if you guys were there Sunday night. Just off of memory, comes down to the rushing game. You got to have a big rusher. That's usually how it goes. Not always, but over the past 15 years, I've spent the last 40 minutes gathering these stats from those games for this video. And most of the time, whoever rushes for more yards is going to win the game, or you usually got to have someone eclipsing 100 yards or your team getting over 100 yards rushing in a game like this. So blast to the past. I was 4 years old, maybe even 3 for this first game we're going to go over. OU Texas 2008. Sooners lose a heartbreaker 45-35. Chris Brown led the Sooners in rushing that game. 7 rushes for 29 yards. That did not get the job done. OU as a team rushed 26 times for 48 yards. And forgive me if I get this name wrong, Chris Ogbenyana rushed for 15 times for 127 yards for the Horns.
Well, and the crazy thing about that game is OU still put up 35 points and could have won. The defense just had a bad outing. I mean, so
yeah, what you're going to see, viewers, and as we go through this, is OU's got 4 solid running backs, and this is a game where a lot of years guys made a name for themselves starting in this game. So that could be something this year where you see someone, step out and have a massive game. We're going to hear some names here. Chris Brown was a guy that had a great career at OU. Definitely struggled in that game.
Well, he only ran it 7 times. I'd be, it's like they didn't run it a whole lot.
26 times.
Yeah, but Sam Bradford threw for 389 yards that game, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So they did rely on the passing game a little more. But again, rushing is what we're looking at here, and that was the difference for that game at least.
Yeah, what about 2009?
Yeah, 2009, Chris Brown again leading the Sooners in rushing. This time 12 rushes for 23 yards. And this stat, offensive coordinators do not want to hear this. Bill Bedenbaugh would have a heart attack probably if this ever happened as with him as offensive line coach. OU rushed 22 times for a total of negative 16 yards. Sacks are included in that number. So a very, very bad outing. And OU still almost won. They lost 16-13. Fozzie Whitaker led the Longhorns in rushing, 18 rushes for 71 yards that year.
Yeah, that was a low-scoring affair.
Defensive battle. OU was pretty good against the rush too, but there again, the team with the most rushing yards came out on top.
That's and it's not rocket science. If you listen to BV talk of how he wants to defend a team, what does he always say? Take away first. Take away the running game. That doesn't mean you're going to win the game, but it helps if you make them one-dimensional. And so, obviously, OU would rather be multiple this Saturday and not be reliant so heavy on the pass. But we'll see.
Yeah, moving on to more of a good news type of year. 2010, Oklahoma takes down the Longhorns 29-20. DeMarco Murray, now the running back coach at OU, rushed 25 times, 115 yards, 2 touchdowns. Leading rusher for the Longhorns in that game was DJ Monroe, 4 rushes for 64 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, DeMarco, we're getting into some years here where the stable at OU was full and fast as we get DeMarco and Adrian Peterson years. But yeah, DeMarco had great games against Texas many times. He caught many passes out of the backfield. And that is an area I think this week these guys can catch out of the backfield. Marcus Major has shown that he can. Gavin Sawchuk, we know, can. Tolly Walker had a nice catch against TU with a little juke and bake. So different types of offenses than back in 2010 on getting guys out in the flare route very quickly. So that's another thing kind of keep an eye on. But DeMarco Murray, great year that year.
Yeah, moving on to 2011, one of the few years where OU did not have a 100-yard rusher. Dominique Whaley led the Sooners in rushing, 13 rushes, 83 yards, and a touchdown. OU won that game 55-17. Big reason why, they held the Longhorns to their leading rusher, Malcolm Brown, 17 rushes, 54 yards. And as a team, Texas rushed 45 times for only 36 yards.
Yeah, this was Brent Venables' last season at OU as defensive coordinator before he went to Clemson. Went out on in a big way. Dominic Whaley, if OU fans don't remember, he was a walk-on that turned into a really good running back for OU. And that was kind of one of his coming out parties, if I remember right.
It was, and he's definitely would have got 100 yards had they rushed him 20 times. Only 13 carries, a score in that game. The lopsided nature of that game kind of maybe had to do with a little bit of that. But, yeah, there again, goes to show, hold the team to less rushing yards, good chance to win.
Yeah, moving on, another blowout win, 2012 for the Sooners. Damian Williams, 22 rushes, 167 yards. Oklahoma wins 63-21. Damian Williams records the longest rushing touchdown in Red River rivalry history, 95-yard score with a great block from Kenny Stills to give him that touchdown run. Also notable in that game, Blake Bell had 4 rushing touchdowns. OU held Texas, their leading rusher, Deja Johnson, 4 rushes, 41 yards, 23 rushes, 74 yards as a team. OU, on the other hand, 51 rushes, 343 yards, and 6 touchdowns.
I'm trying to remember, was this Blake Bell? This was Blake Bell's team at quarterback. This was before Trevor Knight. Trevor Knight would be the next year, I believe. But yeah, Damian Williams, the number's a little skewed by the 95-yard TD run, but man, I still can see that play happening right now in front of my eyes.
Same, and the Belldozer was in full effect, during that season as well. What'd you say, 4 touchdowns?
Yeah, that was the Trey Miller game too, if you guys remember the hurdle.
He leaped the hurdle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Damian Williams would go on after that game and his seasons to become, in my opinion, one of the most underappreciated running backs. Had a good career in the NFL as well.
Yeah, won the Chiefs a Super Bowl and their first Super Bowl against the 49ers. He was a big role in that. I think he had the game-sealing touchdown run there. 2013, not a good year for the Sooners. Keith Ford leads the Sooners in rushing that game. 6 rushes for 34 yards. OU loses 36-20. Jonathan Gray leads the Longhorns in rushing. 29 rushes for 123 yards. They also had Malcolm Brown eclipse 100 yards, 23 rushes for 120. OU as a team only had 33 for 130. Geno Grissom had a pick 6. Roy Fent returned, had a 72-yard return.
Roy Fent,
72-yard return, and OU still loses by 16.
Hey, not much to say about that game.
No, there's not, except for the fact, Jay, I remember you and I having heated debates about you saying Roy Finch has got to be the guy at running back, and they continue to throw Keith Ford out there. And Keith Ford really –
he transferred after that.
He ended up transferring. He wasn't great.
A&M, I think.
Yeah, it was a struggle, dude. It was, and when I remember when Finch ran that, everyone was like, this guy should be the #1 running back for sure. And there's a big debate there. But, hey, what stood out to me in that game, I remember, they put the ball in their running back's hand. They basically said, here's what we're doing. You're not stopping it. The guy had 29 freaking carries. What's that tell you? Couldn't stop the run.
Yeah, 2 rushers with over 100 yards in that game. That's you could tell the Brent Venables defense was not around in 2013. Moving on to 2014, one of the few outliers in all of this, OU gets the win 31-26, despite Samaje Perine leading the Sooners in rushing, only 18 rushes for 62 yards and a touchdown. OU was outrushed by Texas, 48 rushes for 148 to OU's 30 for 103. Malcolm Brown, again, led the Longhorns in rushing, 19 rushes for 78 yards. But Zach Sanchez, pick 6, Alex Ross, kick return touchdown. That was the difference in that game.
Hey, was this quarterback that year? Was it Trevor?
Yeah, it was Trevor Knight, Blake Bell.
How many rushes he had?
Let me get it.
Because I think
Bell,
he had some rushing yards.
Bell probably had as many rushes that game.
No, because, I mean, that Trevor Knight.
Bell would come in and do the Belldozer all day long when Trevor Knight was the quarterback. They used a 2-quarterback system.
Blake Bell had no rushing sacks.
Surprising.
Yeah, Trevor Knight rushed 4 times for 2 yards. So Blake Bell caught 2 passes for 30 yards.
Yeah, he didn't.
So, very limited offensive play.
Surprised they won that game. It was the turnovers.
Yeah, pick 6 and kick return touchdown is the difference for that 31-26 win over the Longhorns. Moving on to 2015, Samaje Perine again leading the Sooners in rushing, 10 rushes for 36 yards, 1 touchdown as OU's upset by the Longhorns, 24-17. Dante Foreman led the Longhorns in rushing, 9 rushes for 117 yards. They also had Jared Hurd, 21 for 115. They averaged 5.8 yards per carry with a long of 81 yards. OU only had 37 carries for 67 yards, 1.8 yards per carry.
Bad.
Yeah, there's nothing to say there. That, I mean, we're getting to the point where, of course, Joe Mixon's about to come on the scene.
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, they had nothing going that game. Baker was not great at all. Kept them in it still. Just not enough. Couldn't get the rushing game going. That is the difference in that game.
And if I remember right, that may have been the last year before Lincoln Riley comes on board as OC.
I think Lincoln was there, right? I thought it was 2015.
He came the next year.
No, 2014 was when Heupel and Jay Norvell were out.
So that was Lincoln's first year.
Yeah, that was Lincoln's first year. Because they went to the playoff that year, lost to Clemson, I think 34-17 in the Orange Bowl. So, yeah, moving on, 2016, really good rushing game for the Sooners. They get the 45-40 win over the Longhorns, just a shootout. Samaje Perine, 35 carries, 214 yards, 2 touchdowns. Deontay Foreman, 25 carries, 159 yards, 2 touchdowns for the Longhorns. Dede Westbrook had his Heisman moment in that game. Baker Mayfield, great game as well. OU gets the 5-point win.
Yeah, and I remember, I really remember watching that game and thinking, dad gum, these guys are so good when they can run the ball, because the play action to Dede Westbrook down the middle of the field does not happen if the running game's not there. And guys, we're going to see it Saturday. If the better you can run the ball, Dylan Gabriel's a good play action quarterback, runs good fakes. It will be much more effective if they can run the ball. Keep those safeties up.
Yeah, Dede Westbrook had 3 touchdowns that game, 10 receptions, 216 yards. On to 2017, another OU win, and that classic 29-24. That was the Baker Mayfield Heisman moment. The rushing game wasn't necessarily to the standards that you kind of want it to be. They did not lead Texas like an individual stats, at least. Trey Sermon, 20 rushes for 92 yards. Sam Ehlinger, 22 rushes for 110 yards and a touchdown. But that doesn't matter. Baker Mayfield had his Heisman moment, found Mark Andrews for the win on a 59-yard touchdown pass.
Yeah, this was surprising because if you look at OU's offensive line that year, studs. That offensive line was unreal, and they were even better, I believe, the next year. But yeah, it was a great offensive line. And I remember Sam Ehlinger, OU could not stop him he would line up at Wildcat, and he just destroyed him, if I remember right.
I think that was more the next year, but it was some 2017 as well. 2017 was really just the greatest call for Chris Fowler, in my opinion. Baker Mayfield, Heisman hopeful, and finds Mark Andrews for the win.
Yeah, the 2018 meltdown.
Yeah. Yeah, this is game 1 of 2018 for the Sooners. Going over first, 48-45 loss. I was there. Kyler Murray tried to bring them back, but Dicker, the kicker, won it. Kyler led the Sooners in rushing, 11 rushes for 92 yards and a touchdown. Keontae Ingram led the Longhorns with 13 for 86. Trey Sermon also had 9 for 54. Sam Ehlinger overall, though, took over that game, 386 total yards and 5 touchdowns.
And this was the end of Mike Stoops.
Yeah, halftime.
Yep, he got fired after the game.
Curtis Bolton, Mike's. Hey, I know I said Mixon earlier, but Mixon was there with P. Ryan. Mixon just didn't get the carries against Texas, did he?
No, he never had that massive.
He
Texas
caught a lot
game.
out of the backfield.
Yeah, I think he had a lot of receptions out of the backfield, but on the ground, he did not ever have that big time performance.
Yeah. 2019.
2018, part 2.
Game 2.
Yeah, Big 12 championship.
Right.
Kyler sealed it. Trey Sermon led the Sooners in rushing, 18 for 65 and a touchdown. Sooners got the job done by limiting Sam Ehlinger to leading the Longhorns in rushing, 15 carries for 42 yards and a touchdown. Kyler sealed it, 379 yards passing and 3 touchdowns.
You remember the one-handed catch in that game?
Yeah, Grant Calcaterra.
There was a lot of moments from that game. You got the Trey Brown safety.
Trey Brown.
I mean, yeah, it was a great game.
CeeDee Lamb had a great game, too.
Yeah.
Big time win.
Playing in his future home.
Yep, in Jerry's world. 2019. Jalen Hurts, 17 carries, 131 yards and a touchdown. Sooners get the win, 34-27. Roschon Johnson led the Longhorns in rushing, 8 carries for 95 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, Johnson was pretty good, dude. Roschon Johnson was good.
Yeah.
Hey, and you talk about Jalen Hurts from the quarterback position to have that many yards. One thing we know this week, Ewers is probably an underrated. He can scramble pretty well.
He's been running the ball really well.
OU's going to have to watch that, but we do know Dylan Gabriel can put up some running numbers. So that's going to – and I'm actually interested to see if Jackson Arnold's going to run the ball some this week.
I think a quarterback has a rush over 20 yards on the OU side.
I agree.
Dylan Gabriel or Jackson Arnold, I think one of them breaks one free for at
and
least
it may be the first time would be since Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. 2020, that was a shootout. 4 overtimes, 53-45. OU gets the win. TJ Pledger ended up finishing his career at Utah, I believe. Rushed 22 times for 131 yards and a touchdown. Sam Ehlinger led the Longhorns in rushing, 23 carries for 112 yards and 4 touchdowns.
This was another year where
Sam Ehlinger just did whatever he wanted in that quarterback run game.
Was Kennedy Brooks hurt?
Kennedy Brooks opted out in 2020. That was COVID year.
That's right.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Not play all year.
Because that was the year where OU was – everyone said OU's not very good at tailback. And then TJ Pledger has this great game. We're like, this guy, isn't bad, but he went on to not be all that maybe people thought he would be after that game. That was kind of the climax of his season.
Yeah, Ramondre Stevenson started taking over. Marcus Major got some run later into the season. So TJ Pledger really just fell in that depth chart and then ended up transferring out that offseason. 2020, one of the most memorable performances, probably because it's the most recent positive performance for the Sooners in the Red River rivalry. Kennedy Brooks called game. 25 rushes. Yeah, 21.
Yeah.
25 rushes, 217 yards, 2 touchdowns, including the dagger for the 55-48 win. Bijan Robinson had a day himself, 20 carries for 137 yards and a touchdown.
And you had Caleb Williams.
Yeah, Caleb had like a 60-yard touchdown run.
Yeah.
Went
the distance almost. So.
And then one of the best throws I've ever seen to Marvin Mims, and he stayed in bounds.
Hey, Kennedy Brooks.
So underappreciated.
Oh, so underappreciated. His ball security, everything, deceptively fast. I remember that game. They could have handed the ball to him anytime they wanted. He was going to get pretty good yardage.
Well, the last 2 possessions, they kept doing that little pitch out to him, and he kind of just hesitates and then takes off. All they needed to do was get the first down, kick the field goal, win the game, and Kennedy Brooks scores because Texas could not stop it.
Maybe the most patient running back that OU's ever had. He waited on blocks.
And there's a reason that if he would have stuck around for his senior year, he would have finished number 1 in all-time rushing yards, would have been the first Sooner in OU history to have 4 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. That's never been done before, and we're talking about Billy Sims, Samaje Perine, Joe Washington, like all these just historic running backs. Adrian Peterson was here too, and never been done before, but Brooks opted to go to the NFL.
And the O-line, probably every one of those guys are playing on Sunday, so the O-line was also very good.
Yeah, now we got to do it. We got to talk about it. 2022, 49-0 shutout.
Was Braden Willis the leading rusher?
He was not.
Try
again. I want to see if you guys can guess this one.
The leading rusher last year?
Yeah, drop your answers down below before I reveal it.
Oh, you want me to answer it?
Yeah, you guys can answer it.
Let's see.
I would have thought what we just said was it.
What, Braden Willis?
Yeah. No, it's not.
It wasn't Willis or Eric Gray.
No, not a running back.
It was a fullback.
Nope.
Raleigh.
Really? Quarterback or receiver?
It was Jalil Farouk.
Yeah, Jalil Farouk led the Sooners in rushing. 5 rushes for 160 yards. OU's offensive yards pretty much came in the running game. They had 42 carries for 156 yards. Bijan Robinson, 22 carries, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns.
God, I am so glad he's gone.
Well,
he's unreal. He's unreal.
I'll tell you this, guys. That's a good segue into this season because I have not said this yet. I know on the earlier video that Jay and Brody did about stock rising, it would not shock me if Brennan Thompson was the leading running rusher. Maybe not this game, but at some point because he's going to go the distance on an end around. If he's got a seam, he's gone. So he could very well pop off an 80-yard run like that.
The only thing that, like on the end around stuff, like you mentioned, a lot of them are that little pitch almost. So it counts as a forward pass.
Yeah.
Because it's a pitch right in front of them.
That's true.
Hey, what are the chances? What are the chances of OU running that formation they ran at TU with Jackson Arnold at receiver?
I think that
wait, and
at least once.
What I'm saying is throw it to Jackson Arnold and let him throw it to Brennan.
I could honestly see them throwing the screen pass to Jackson Arnold and seeing what happens. Like I don't know. I think we're going to see that formation at least once to try to see how Texas responds to it. Because why else would you throw that out there? Like,
Yeah.
why else would you put that on film unless you're going to use it in a big game? You're playing the number 3 team in the country. I think they should be the number 1 team in the country, in Texas, in Dallas. So you got to keep them on their toes. And I think Jeff Levy's going to have another mastermind of a performance.
Who has
well,
a better win? Who has a better win on their schedule than Texas right now?
No one really, but
I mean,
that's again,
right.
How good is Alabama? That's one
the
thing that has to be answered.
Hey,
But they did
Milroe's
go,
done better.
yes, but they did go to Tuscaloosa, get the win. You give them props for that. Quinn Ewers looked like every bit of a 5-star quarterback in that game.
Yeah, and look, appreciate the research that was done here, Hunter. You guys that are Sooner fans probably appreciate it as well. Drop your comments there. Drop your appreciation there in the comment section. Here's what I'll take from this and the research. A lot of times numbers don't lie, guys. Numbers don't lie, especially when they're this consistent. OU's got to find a way to rush the football. They got to win the battle up front in the trenches. I think Bill Bedenbaugh is taking this personally. I think the line is as well. I expect for them to be able to rush for 100 yards against this vaunted Texas defense on Saturday. And if they do, if they rush for more yards, the proof is in the pudding here that they should come out on top, guys.
Yeah, twice this year, OU rushed for over 4.0 yards per carry. That was against Arkansas State, 4.5. They had 6 touchdowns on the ground that day, 49 rushes, 220. And then against Tulsa, 28 for 119, 2 touchdowns, 4.3 yards per carry. So worth looking at that. The last 2 games have been going against better defenses, so the numbers have went down. But again, it's Dallas. You got to find a way. Got to find a way to win, and the running game's pretty much the consistent way to do that.
Yeah, and the main thing I think, looking at it, a lot of times more important is the average yards per carry than it is the total yards, because you may be averaging 5 or 6 yards a carry and just not run it as much, but that's opening up the passing game if you're able to have consistent average. So yeah, excited.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, Jay, as we end this video. Is those 2 games that you mentioned, Hunter, were probably yardage-wise Dillon Gabriel's top yardage, because we were able to take shots down the field off the play action. Everything is easier when you can run the football. Make your life easier when it comes to OU sports. Subscribe to the Sooner Surge. You don't have to look anywhere else, guys. We'll give you the content. So click the button, subscribe. We got more coming at you this week. Appreciate it. Till next time, Boomer.